According to the law of one, you started out on your soul expression journey as an elemental force of nature. And that element you still resonate with now. At some point, you chose to join the botanical family. And somewhere out there, there's a flower or plant that you still resonate with now. And of course, there is an animal group that you were a part of and still resonate with now. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing as you're developing your soul expression. So this week, I want you to think about what is a flower or plant that I truly love. Like I just feel like this flower or plant really represents me. What about an animal? Is there an animal that resonates deeply with you? Like you just feel like you get and understand the nature of this animal. What about a mineral? Is there something that your body always seems to crave or always wants more of? Spend time contemplating these ideas and get to know yourself even deeper. Hi everyone, Therese here. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. So the message from the team this week is all about reestablishing a strong sense of self. It is so easy when the outside world tugs on us from all different directions to start to lose a sense of ourselves, especially when you're a being whose primary objective is love, right? Love, compassion, understanding, empathy, compassion. All of these really, they're beautiful qualities. They're admirable qualities. In fact, they're high vibrational qualities. And yet, with this, we are more easily pulled in one direction or another as we are trying to be so loving, compassionate, considerate, right? Really trying to think about, well, if it's good, if it's good for this person and that's what they need, then maybe I need to adjust to that. And as we keep adjusting to others, we also lose a sense of self. And so the message from the team this week is to reestablish the connection with a sense of self. And this can sometimes be intimidating work. I mean, that's such a big topic. You're a multidimensional being. You have so many levels to you. And, if you're not already doing the work of personal growth, of personal development, it can seem a little intimidating to really reestablish that connection to yourself. And when I asked the team, how would you suggest we do this? They always say, go right back to the inner child. The inner child in you is one of the purest expressions of who you are, because that part of you was largely untainted by the outside world. There was a little bit of influence from your direct sphere, but for the most part, the core of you was still very much in touch with your authenticity and your divine essence. And so, again, we're being asked to return, to speak with, to sit down and have playtime with the inner child so that we may more fully establish a deeper sense of self. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked about a few cool ideas that I'd like to go deeper into with you. So, according to the law of one material, and I actually think this also comes through Dolores Cannon's work. It's one of the reasons why I love to work with these together, because I don't think she was aware necessarily of the law of one and her work. Remember, if you've heard me talk about Dolores Cannon before, or if you're new to her, check her out, Google her, check on YouTube. She's got 19 books. This woman was incredible. And I have a really cool side story about it. She actually reached out to me in spirit back in 2018. She was reaching out to me, and I had no idea at that point who she was. And so I kept kind of ignoring. I kept going, I don't know who you are. I don't have time for this. I'm busy. And she was persistent and kept getting my attention. Thank goodness I finally listened, because her work is incredible. And the reason I reference it so much is because there's so much transparency in her work, the type of work she did. So she was a professional hypnotist who ended up pioneering her own methodology of hypnosis, which is called quantum healing hypnosis therapy. And it's an incredible line of hypnosis that's still taught to this day. You can find practitioners who only can be certified if they go through her rigorous training. So it's a very specific, amazing type of hypnosis that not only does it allow you to access past lives, it takes you right into your subconscious mind. You're talking to your higher self. You're getting information from the deepest part of you. And literally spontaneous healing can happen when that communication occurs. But what was fascinating about her work is that she did thousands and thousands of hypnosis sessions and recorded the results, and that's the basis of her books. So nothing that Dolores got was through theory, right? It wasn't stuff that she had studied and was passed down. This actually was anecdotal evidence from her sessions. And what she was finding is that people all across the world, and she did hypnosis sessions all around the world. And so these people never met each other, in many cases never knew who they were, but they would repeat certain information, sometimes verbatim. And when that happened, then she knew, aha, this is a thread to follow. And usually a book would be born from having so many cases saying similar or almost the same thing. And one of the anecdotes I want to talk about is our soul signature origins. And this also matches up to the Law of One material. And I don't know if these two ever cross paths. They certainly didn't in the early stages. Maybe later on, these two works started crossing paths. In the Law of One material and in Dolores' sessions, what she found out from people is that we didn't just come incarnate on earth as humans, that we've incarnated as many things. And human is just one of the things that we incarnate as. In fact, we've had lifetimes before this lifetime where you may have been a galactic being or you may have been a flower. Usually there is a sort of progression or a buildup. So the way I understand it is we're all part of Source. We're one with Source. We always are. But as we develop a soul journey, we become like a filament off of Source and we start to express. And this expression still is very much pure Source energy, doesn't have its own tone or flavor or color yet, but it will as it develops. And so this stream of consciousness that we are, the stream of Source energy, first chooses paths that are like building blocks, both for maybe the world it inhabits, but also for the soul expression itself. So you'll start at first density, and this is like the elemental mineral kingdom, where you may start as a certain type of element, like you might start as hydrogen, or you might start as a mineral like magnesium, and live some of your first solo soul expressions as you're developing there. And then from there, you might move on to something a little bit more complicated. Again, like moving into a type of plant or flower. In fact, many of us actually come from flowers. We have in our soul signature a signature flower. It's probably your favorite flower right now. It's a flower you feel highly resonant with. And from there, as we keep developing, and then of course we might have a tree that we move to, so a type of tree, this becomes a building block in our soul signature, and you can see it just builds up in complexity. Moving on to animals, moving on to human time periods, moving on to off-world time periods, moving on to galactic periods, and it's not necessarily a linear thread. It has to do with the rate at which our soul signature consciousness vibrates. So we're looking at what is first density, That's the first level of vibration, and that's usually, again, elements and minerals. Second density usually includes plants and animals. Third density is where we start to become human. And so anything that has a human-like or human experience, very third density. Fourth density is human plus, if you will, and beyond. And then it just keeps going and going. And pretty soon what happens is our soul signature develops into this beautiful, complex, a great way to think of it or picture it is like a beautiful, complex piece of music or a beautiful, complex stained glass window with so many facets and colors. And yet, when you experience the whole thing together, then you start to see this expression of source or God coming through an individual. It's so beautiful. And yet it's something that we can easily, especially in this lifetime and in this period we're going through, lose track of, right? We start to, again, and this goes back to, you hear me talk about it all the time, but it does go back to that control structure, the negative control structure that's falling apart. Thank God it's falling apart. But it wants to homogenize. It doesn't want uniqueness and different and faceted energy. It wants a homogenized sort of worker bee drone type energy. We lose a sense of self when we start to, if we start to like default conform to this energy. It homogenizes and loses its essence. So there's always an antidote. It's never going to work because the universe always produces a balance, a counterbalance. So whenever any energy is out of balance, usually the counterbalance is proposed into the situation. So naturally, this is where there's always going to be someone, there's always going to be a group, there's always going to be an energy signature that's like, break free of the conformity, break out of the noise, right? That's why it's really hard. If you think about, and I don't know why they're bringing this up, but like, if you think about like school uniforms, right? The idea there is to homogenize. It's to make everyone look the same, so no one's focusing on uniqueness or difference, and the idea is to just focus in on the work and not the personality or the soul signature, if you will. But it never works. There's always going to be at least one, if not a handful of people that figure out a workaround, right? Like they might not be able to wear the clothes they want to wear, but suddenly the school uniform's got a bunch of safety pins in it, or, you know, the hair turns a different color, or the eyeshadow's got a bunch of sparkle in it. And it's some way in which that being's unique signature starts to stand out because there's a natural desire to express one's self. So when we find ourselves in this period where, again, there's like this pull to group or homogenize or minimize soul expression or something different, there's going to be a natural point at which that is going to be challenged by a natural expression. Now, again, going back to what I said before, this can be really tricky for those whose desire is harmony and compassion, because homogenizing can be mistaken for harmony, right? They sound kind of the same, like one. It feels like there could be a oneness here. And right, and so there is this desire in those who wish to be of service to others to kind of like, well, I want harmony, so I'm willing to put what makes me unique, different, or special on the back burner. And here's what's interesting, is that at the same time, these are both true. We are one, we are unity, we are one being, and yet we are on a specific journey of soul expression. We are meant to build our stained glass window. We are meant to extend ourselves from source and be a beautiful representation of source as a certain flavor or sound or color or experience, right? We're meant to be something more fantastic while we are one. And this can be really tricky for the brain to understand if the brain is not in full coherence with itself. So if the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere are are not communicating, cross-communicating, then this can be a really hard task to fulfill because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work together. Either we're a hive mind or we're an individual, but we're not both. And the truth is much more complex and interdimensional than that. We are a collective, a unison. We are a chorus, but we all have individual solo parts at the same time, and yet we work together. And so at this point in time, the team is simply reminding us that it is important to work together and remember our oneness, but at the same time, honor your journey and remember who you are, because you're bringing something unique to the table. And it is a uniqueness that wants to be part of something bigger. So again, there's the oneness, but it is that uniqueness that is your skill set. It's your tools, it's your magic. And you're being asked to remember what that is now. And the best way to do it is to talk to your inner child. And if that feels a little difficult or you're not sure how to start that conversation, try the exercise I gave you, where you can identify the flower you most resonate with, the element or the mineral that seems to be most important to the body. Something that you're like, I'm always craving bananas. Well, maybe you are connected to potassium. Think about that, right? The tree that you're like, I love this tree. This tree speaks to me every time I see it. The animals that you're just like drawn to, right? These all are informing you and giving you an idea of just what is part of your stained glass window. So with that, let's do some karma cards. For those who are new to karma cards, let me go over this with you. I have 3 decks here: the planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what message do you have for us this week? And on the cards, I have 2 sets of answers, one in red, which are action, and one in blue, which is outcome. And the way that you play is you tune in intuitively to yourself and see, what do I need in this moment? Do I need action-related answers, or am I looking for outcomes over the next week? And while you're deciding that, let me tell you the timing of this reading. This is a reading for September 8th through September 15th, 2021. All right, and let's look at the flavor of this reading. We have the South Node, which represents the past. Sometimes this card can sound like a bummer, but I'm interested in its placement today because I wonder if it's connected. It's always connected to the message that came before. In the sign of Leo, which rules the 5th house that also shows up. This is where the inner child lives. This is the fun house. So I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out. So let's find out. Those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to remember leadership with the trust of a child. So with the trust of a child goes all in with trust. And when a child does something, they go all in. They don't hold back a little bit. Once they believe it, they're in. Remember leadership. And again, this is that. Who's the captain of your ship? Who is the author of your story? Who is the creator being of your life? Remember that. Remember who you are and fully trust in that. Your mental action is to reconsider the creativeness of fun, romance, and making art. Reconsider. Spend more time with this. Think about it. These are crucial. The 5th house. So in numerology, 5 is right in the center of 1 through 9. It is the midway point, and it's also a representation of the heart. Number 5 is connected to the heart. The 5th house is connected to Leo. Leo is connected to sovereignty. So this is a crucial point to get. I don't think that the wise ancient beings who identified astrology and brought it forward put anything arbitrary in there. So fun, romance, making art, these are not arbitrary. I'll get to it later at some point. These are the heart issues. So it's time to get into that space again. And I definitely think that is connected to remember your soul signature. Like, get in touch with that again. Get in touch with who you really are. Physical action at this time. Now is not the time to do what you want to and do it dramatically. right? So this is not interestingly enough, when the South Node comes in, the action is a no action. So it is an ebb part of an ebb flow cycle. You're in a reconsider moment. You're in a deep thinking, planning, strategy, and resting moment. So there is, when you feel like there's no outward expression, or an outlet rather to outward expression yet, that's usually a sign that there's more to get inside at this time. It doesn't mean there won't be outward expression. It just means at this time, it's time to really sit and consider, to contemplate and ponder more about you and your soul essence. All right, so now let's look at outcomes for the South Node in Leo in the 5th house or the fun house. The spiritual outcome at this time, there will not be self-confidence to create the power of love. All right, so sounds like we're being asked to really consider who we are, and because we maybe haven't stopped and really dug into that deep enough, I think the natural response is to be like, well, I don't know what, I've never thought about what flower I might be or what tree, and why is that important? Should I know that? Should I have known that already? Like that could happen. So yeah, at this point in time, also, if you haven't done the regular work of talking to your inner child, or you've never considered what more you might be, I find that people who haven't done a lot of that work yet, they do feel a lack of trust around it. They're just insecure. They're not sure that they're doing it right. That's a big thing, right? They don't want to get it wrong. And I'm here to tell you, even if you still feel self-conscious about it, you can't do this wrong. Only you have the answer. Nothing and no one outside of you can tell you who you really are. And if you're just not sure, I think a big part of it is, again, getting into the heart space first and feeling it. You got to feel, this is not a thinking task, and the brain's not really going to be able to be the one to get you the answers. It's the heart. And it has to go into that deeper feeling state of connectedness. And it might take some time, which is why we're being told there's no real action. You're going to just have to sit with this and let it, let yourself connect to it. Some people love that. Some people are not going to love it so much. Mental outcome at this time. Anxiety about taking a chance on investments and other gambles. And this goes back to the whole homogenization, separation, or homogenization versus uniqueness. Anxiety about stepping out of what the crowd is doing and doing your thing. That's a pretty natural response. We're so socially conditioned by this structure to behave certain ways that I see people doing behavior that they don't even agree with. They just don't want to be mocked, ridiculed. They don't want to be seen. They really don't want to be seen. They just want to be invisible so they can get through certain things. And at this time, it is going to feel, and if that's how you've been operating, that's understandable. It's intense pressure. And yet at this time, it's saying, the job is to get in touch with true essence of you, without judgment, and total curiosity is the way forward. Now, this is going to feel like taking a risk. The weirdest thing, it's like being more yourself can actually feel like you're taking a risk because you are expressing something unique and authentic versus something that you've been told you should be or told you should have. And that is going to create anxiety in certain people. And especially if you haven't been practicing it a lot yet, it's kind of a natural result, but it's okay. It's okay. And again, there's no external action at this time. So it's all for you, and you can keep it very private for yourself right now. You don't have to go out and be like, well, my inner child said this, and so now I'm doing that. Might not be comfortable for you yet. And again, we're not being advised to externalize this. This is still very much an internal understanding and an internal desire to express. physical outcome at this time. Trouble resulting in the impressiveness of your creations. You are your creation. Trouble, again, this is just saying to me, you know, as soon as you start bringing this out, first of all, the hive mind programming is designed to detect, what's the word I'm looking for? It's designed to detect rogue agents. So if you're not doing the homogenous thing and you're going rogue, that means you're going, I was going to say au naturel. That could be misinterpreted. It means that you're going off on your own and you're doing your thing and you're expressing in a unique way. That can cause trouble. The homogenous programming doesn't like that, right? Think about again, school uniforms. Everybody's dressing and doing the right thing, and then there's the one kid who does the like punk thing, and that's the kid that's always getting called into the principal's office because they're going rogue, right? They're going against the programming. So, trouble resulting from the impressiveness, higher self, source energy, fifth house, heart, impressiveness. The true you is quite impressive and exquisite of your creation. You made it. All right. So again, this trouble is not necessarily externally expressed or trouble coming at you. It could be a troubled feeling on the inside, because again, the programming has gone so deep that even when you break your own programming, there's a natural sort of response of like, danger, danger, you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that's true, but that's part of what's been programmed in. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you guys remember this, I might be dating myself here too, but when I was in school, they had the DARE program. Does anyone remember this? DARE to keep kids off drugs, right? And they would every year go over it with us and talk to us about all the different ways of peer pressure. And basically what they were doing was like letting us know how this control structure works. You know, it's on a bigger scale. So it's not necessarily your direct peers, but it's our social structure, which is a group of our peers together. And it's just so funny because they really prepped at least my generation to learn how to identify it and break free from it. And little did they know they were doing us such a service to teach us that, because I see a lot of people in my generation getting it. And they're like, yeah, we don't have to do this. Or yeah, we don't have to conform if that doesn't feel right, right? I'm going to follow and trust my own inner guidance. And really, that is the message that they want you to get, but they want you to do it in an authentic way. It's authentic to you. And so it's not about what someone else says is right for you. It's not about what my version of what's right. It's about yours. And the closer you get to your own unique self-expression, the easier it is to identify that. It might not look like anything anybody else is doing. And that is okay. As long as it feels in integrity with your soul, it is right for you. And with that, I hope that you have a beautiful week. Mwah. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.